Welcome to Doing Business Gently. If you're a woman over 50 who has built a business alongside personal health challenges, caregiving, and the ever-changing world of entrepreneurship, you are in the right place. I'm your host, Marta, and on this show, we talk about building a simple and sustainable business that fits your current season of life and doing that gently from a place of rest. This is another episode in this series of finding your voice and reconnecting with your business. In the last episode, I brought on two special guests, a couple ladies from my mastermind, who shared what it was like for them to build a gentle business and what it's been like to find their voice, find their focus, and reconnect with their business again. I hope you found their stories inspiring. It's always fun to get together with them and talk about what's going on in their business, what they're learning, and it was fun to bring that conversation to you. So I want to take this conversation one step further. In a couple of the episodes before that, I talked a little bit about what it was like to lose my voice or what it felt like and some of the steps that I took to recover my voice and find it again. And I wanted to go into that a little bit deeper today because I am going to be sharing with you at the end an upcoming workshop that is all centered around this idea of reconnecting with your business by finding your voice. And that workshop is called Confidently Connected. And I would love to have you join us and come and work through the steps that I'll be sharing here today in a much deeper way of helping you find your voice so you can reconnect with your business, which allows you to go out and serve the people that you love to serve in a much deeper, more impactful way. So just as a quick recap, if you haven't heard the previous episodes, I have gone through several seasons in my 18 years of business where it felt like I lost my voice. And there's a lot of different ways it happened. A lot of times it happened after an intense season of caregiving or a grief journey or just the journey of entrepreneurship and letting too much into my world where I wasn't hearing my voice and I was hearing the voices of many different coaches, of freebies and YouTube videos and podcasts. And a lot of times it was with conflicting information. And through that, my voice got buried. And I let it happen. It wasn't something that I set out to do, but it's something I let happen. And there was a step-by-step process that I needed to go through to uncover my voice, to quiet the noise, hear myself think again, and start using my voice. And every time I've done that, amazing things have happened. For me, I rebranded more than once. Again, this is over 18 years. It's not something I do every 6 months, but it's happened. There's been significant shifts over those 18 years. I felt a lot more confident in my business. I was able to gentle my business, so it didn't feel like I was fighting it so much. Came to my clients and served them in a much deeper, more impactful way because I knew what I was bringing to the table. I started a podcast. I actually started emailing my list, my people on a regular basis. I refined and simplified my services. And I was able to create a schedule that worked much better for me, especially in the years of intense caregiving. And that allowed me to create a gentle business. But in those seasons of loss, in those intense seasons of caregiving, in those seasons of letting other people speak into my life without having a better filter in place because I was in survival mode, and in those seasons, I did lose my voice because I stopped using it and I allowed other people to layer on their perspective on what I wanted to bring to the table. And I lost myself. Losing your voice is often about losing yourself in the process. And a lot of times it's from survival mode. A lot of times it's from fear. And so coming back and going through this process of finding my voice, learning to use it again, is always an amazing journey. And it does change things. It changed things in me personally. It's changed things in the women I coach. And you heard Shelby and Kim in the last episode. If you haven't listened to that one, I would recommend go back and listening to that. What a difference it made for them in designing an impactful but gentle business by finding their voice, finding their focus, and creating a gentle version of their business. So how did I go about recovering my voice? I want to share with you two different ways that I've done this in the past. I went through a pretty big season of change back in 2019, 2020, where I had been operating basically two businesses. I had a web design and website consulting business, and I also had a blog and self-publishing business. And I wasn't fully showing up as myself in either business. It was also in a season of caregiving that was starting to grow and require more of my time. And I was starting to realize that I had outgrown what I had built. I literally had a moment where I sat back in my chair and said, I've outgrown my business. Now what? And that opened the doors to so many things. I spent a lot of time journaling. I spent time in conversation with colleagues. At that time, I was in a mastermind. A lot of time in prayer, saying, Lord, something's got to change. This can't continue at this pace. This can't continue like this. Something's got to change. But at that point, I didn't know what it was. And through that journaling, through those conversations, through those questions that were asked in the mastermind and working through those questions, that aha moment that I had outgrown my business changed the conversation. It changed the conversation I was having with myself, with others, with the mastermind. And so I was able to start asking different questions, questions that pushed me below the surface and not just give a surface one-off answer, but it forced me to dig a little bit deeper. Who am I? Who am I in my business? What is the problem that I love to solve? What am I bringing to the table? And the more I started mapping that out, the more I had conversations, the clearer it became. And at the heart of what I was doing at that point was that I was helping women reduce the stress they felt in their business. That was through the blogging. That was through my self-publishing. That was through my website consulting and some of the coaching that I was doing at the time. And when I brought this up in my mastermind, there was kind of dead silence for a minute. And somebody spoke up and said, you know what? I see that. And that was so incredibly validating, because then I was able to go back to my journaling, back to my analysis, back to asking even more questions that helped me fine-tune who had I been before this aha moment, and who did I want to be after this aha moment, and who did I want to be just generated more questions, and I was able to answer. I was able to dig a little bit deeper. Finding your voice, I don't think is a one and done process, and I don't think it can be done in a couple hours. This takes time. It takes time to think. It takes time to give your brain time to percolate and think about the questions and give an answer. In this world of noise, in this world of custom GPTs, of being able to open up an AI tool and quickly ask a question, we're losing the ability to think and to process and to be strategic. I love AI tools. I use them almost every day. But when you are not giving your AI tool the right information, it is giving you the perspective of general information it's pulling, or if you're using a custom GPT, it is pulling the information from the person who trained that tool. Through that, you are not using your voice, and your voice is getting covered. It is getting buried, and you stop using it, and you get more confused, and you stop making positive changes. You lose momentum and you lose clarity. It is a backward cycle. And I've been through that many times in my career. And I went through it again this year. At the end of January 2026, I did lose my mother after a long battle with Alzheimer's. And the years leading up to that were increasingly difficult, where my focus needed to be on her. And so I did download the freebies. I did work with different coaches. I bought different programs. I started using AI tools more, but I used it from a place of survival mode. And those tools did help me get through that season. But by the end of that season, and by the time I could start thinking again, I realized I had lost my voice. I wasn't showing up as me. Again, I was looking at different aspects of my business, and I was showing up as really tired caregiver Marta, and then also Coach Marta. Coach Marta has a lot of fun. I love showing up in my mastermind. It's one of my favorite things to do in the work that I do. I love sitting down one-on-one with my clients and really digging deep into their story, into their business, and where they are and where they want to be. But through that survival mode, there was a disconnect. There was a disconnect with my business. There was a disconnect with my voice. But because I've gone through it before, I knew what I needed to do. I needed to quiet the noise. I needed to slow down the rate of information that was coming at me, because I was definitely consuming more than I was producing, more than I was thinking, more than I was processing. And then I started to ask the questions I needed to ask. This time, however, because I do have access to better AI tools, and I didn't just have to pull out a journal where I had been writing, I was actually able to then record my voice this time. Look at the questions that I've used in the past, but record myself. Because if you've ever noticed, a lot of times we talk differently than we write. And I'm a big fan of journaling. I love journaling. I use journaling on a regular basis. I encourage people to journal because your brain does get activated in a different way when you take pen to paper and start writing. So don't eliminate journaling. I think it's incredibly beneficial. But then you can also go and start talking and recording. I've used voice notes on my phone. I've used the My Notes section of my Voxer app. I use Descript to record my podcast. I've gone in and recorded myself in my Descript. And then I've taken that, created transcripts, looked at the transcripts, and then I used AI tools with better input this time and saying, please analyze this. What are some of my repeated phrases? What are some of the patterns? What are some of the things that you can see in what I'm saying that I need to take note of? And that helped me recover and find my voice again so I could start using it at a much faster rate. And it was a lot of fun. And when I go back now and look at the journals I have from back in 2020, probably 2019 to 2021, there was a lot of searching. There was a lot of information I had in there. And I did a lot of manual analysis that was very beneficial. And it helped me see things in a new light that allowed me to rebrand, to merge those two businesses into one and rebrand myself as a coach who liked to help people reduce stress. And this time around, what I'm learning is that even though I did all that analysis and I did a lot of it, now I have better tools that I can take all that journaling, I can take all those recordings and get even deeper, in-depth analysis. And what this has done has changed me and how I show up in my business. It's changed how I use AI tools. I much prefer now and understand the benefit of good input in order to get better output. And by putting my voice out there of saying the things that I want to say, and then asking for help to form that into a much more coherent and short, because I can get a little wordy, short email or help me with a landing page. It goes so much faster, and it is me because it's actually my words. It's my thoughts. It's not just some random generation by the AI tool. It is using my voice, my words to help me create showing up in my email, creating a landing page. It's also changed how I show up in this podcast. It used to be that I needed to map out everything. I'd ask for some help from the AI tool, maybe on some topic ideas or help me generate an outline. But then I would have to go script it out because I didn't want to forget anything and I wanted it to be as perfect as possible. Taking the time to record myself, answering some very specific questions about my business, about questions I get asked in my coaching environments, and what are the topics that I know my women are struggling with and starting to answer those, I discovered I had a voice that I hadn't been using for quite a while. I discovered I had a lot more to say. I discovered there were things that I still hadn't tackled yet, topics I hadn't addressed. I was actually finding new topics by bringing this all together and asking an AI tool to help me analyze it. So when I took the analysis, I was able to go in and actually add more comments, more notes, because it would trigger more memories. It would trigger more ideas. It would trigger more conversations. And so what you have done when you've gone through this process is you've cleared the decks. You've taken out all the noise that is coming at you from all sorts of directions. You've started to have discernment about what voices can have a say in your life and in your business. And you start using your voice. Now you know what to say in an email. Now you know what to say in a podcast. Now you know what to say in a social media caption. Now you know what topics you want to bring to your membership, to your coaching. What products and services now that would you like to bring that you know can help your clients? Your conversations with your clients and your different environments, they change. And all of a sudden you are connecting with people in a different way. Again, this is not an overnight process. And if you find yourself not connecting with your business, I can pretty much guarantee you've lost your voice. You don't know what to say on your website. You don't know what to send in an email. You're trying to put together a marketing plan and it becomes convoluted, or you delay doing it because you're not sure what to say. For so many years, people would tell me, well, just send the email or just write a social media caption. And I would sit there and that blank screen would replicate my brain. My brain would go blank. I did not know what to say. Finding and using my voice, I have found the words that I want to say, and they're mine. They're my words. They're my thoughts. They're my conversations with my clients. And those conversations with clients have taught me so much, so that I have refined my process. I have refined those conversations so that I can help the next person even better. I can make a better, deeper impact in their life. And I would like that for you, because in a recent survey that I sent out, there were a lot of comments about that lack of connection with a business, that their marketing isn't where it needs to be, that they don't feel connected to creating a marketing plan. Their website is out of date. It does not connect with the business they have today. That when they do want to make a plan, they go and look for free tools, or they look for what is happening on the internet. Where are those trends? And those are helpful. But until you know who you are, find your voice and start using it, a lot of that research you're doing is not going to help you. All it's going to do is clutter your inbox, plug up your ears. So again, you're not hearing your voice. You were created with a certain set of skills. You were created with talents, and you've learned a lot in your years of business. You've learned a lot through years of health challenges, caregiving, balancing life with your business, showing up and serving your clients year after year, client after client. Your voice, we need it. We need your voice, and we need you to uncover your voice. We need you to connect with your business, because we need you. We need your voice, your experience, in order to help transform our lives. So if this is something that you know you need help with, I would invite you to check out my upcoming workshop called Confidently Connected. And I've described the process here of what it took to go through in different seasons of life of recovering and starting to use my voice again, which connected me to my business in a much more positive and a gentler way. That's what we're going to be talking about in this workshop. We're going to be talking about what does it take to quiet the noise and hear your voice again? What are the questions and what's the process you need to start with right now to recover your voice? And while we can't do everything in the 90 minutes that will be gathered together, you will have a platform. You will have an action plan by the end of the workshop, so that you've started the process of recovering your voice and reconnecting with your business in the workshop. But you will have the tools then to go on and do the work yourself of asking the questions that you need to ask to uncover your voice, recover your connection to your business, and serve your people in a much deeper, more impactful way. So I would invite you to join us in the workshop. So if you'd like to join us, the links will be in the show notes below. But also you can visit me at selastudios.co/confidently-connected. And I would love to have you in the workshop. And if you would like to take the survey, I will leave that link to that in the show notes. I'm leaving it open a little bit longer, because what I'm learning in those survey responses, it's directly impacting not only this podcast, but it's already impacted how I'm delivering this workshop. It changed the name, it changed the focus, and it changed the direction of the workshop. And so your answers will have a direct impact on what we share in that workshop. The workshop's only $37. You will have the replay. You'll be able to keep the workbook and the question guide. It's going to be a fun time for us to get together. Bring your journal, bring your pen. This will be an interactive experience. And I would love to see you in Confidently Connected.